Well, episode 7, we have a guy. I mean, every one of the guests that we have had in each of these episodes of describing Mike Cap's book, Grinders, Baseball, Intrepid Infantry, they've all been grinders in some form or fashion. But this guy who's on the bottom here, I don't know how we organize our Brady Bunch squares, but it is this guy is a grinder. In fact, it's just kind of ironic or coincidental. Had a conversation the other day. This guy, Travis Driscoll, came up, and the guy that I had a conversation with literally referred to him as a grinder 4 times in our conversation. And he and Mike Capps shared the booth together at the Dell Diamond at the Round Rock Express. And I don't want to ruin the story, gentlemen, but this guy's biography and his ties to the great game of baseball, endless.
Well, and it started in Austin, where two of the three of us in this picture sit, and his dad had a whole lot to do with the development and running of what has turned out to be a great Northwest Little League area, just right across Mopac from where I live. And it's his dad. I had so many great conversations with his dad. Not a little league parent, but terribly involved and his son with his son and baseball. And first of all, Travis, I miss having you on the air.
Oh, I miss Round Rock terribly, and I miss going to the ball yard every day.
Well, I'll tell you what we did last year. I called him up and I said, "Hey, you want to do something different?" He goes, "I thought every night we did something different." And I was doing yeah. I said, "How about I guess I was on the road someplace, Oklahoma City, maybe."
I believe so, and I know we talked about it, and then next thing we know, I was watching the game and then commenting. There was a delay, of course, but just being on the air again, that was fun times.
On the phone.
Yeah, watching the game on video, and then on phone. Yeah, that was even crazier. How we didn't have a hiccup, I have no idea.
Well, I'm thinking about doing that again this year, and it probably makes more sense because I think I'd like to have you on like when we're in Tacoma. Do you stay awake that late?
Oh no, I'm kind of old. I'm kind of old now. I don't know if I can stay up that late, Cappy.
You ain't old as me, man. But here's the deal that for the years that Travis was with us, and it was 05, 06, and 07, is that right?
Yep, that's right.
There was never a better reliever, and never a guy who. And you talk to Jackie Moore, who was the skipper in those 3 years. Never more willing to take the ball in any kind of situation until his last go round. I don't want to give away the entire story of the way it ended because I think we did a pretty good job writing about it in the book. And I ran that thing at Jackie, and I guess you've probably seen it by now, haven't you?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay, well, I'll send you that profile so you can see it.
But I know what happened that night, like it was yesterday, and it still gets me emotional.
If you can imagine, and Jackie Moore, who was the skipper, and the folks in the front office will tell you, and how in the world they were able to pull this off. They actually had Travis come out the next to the last night he was going to wear a uniform. And he pitched very, very well. And they ran him out the last night, and he pitched a fit. He pitched a Willie. I don't want, I can't be any better than last night. Blah, 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 blah.
You're right.
Okay, and sort of pick it up from there without just too much drama. But and if you got to cry, cry. I cry every time I read the damn thing because I was there, and there was not a dry eye in the house. This is his retirement.
What I remember most is, I think it was the 7th inning, the phone rang, and again, I was not expecting to pitch, but of course, being a professional, I'm not going to turn down an opportunity to pitch. But after having pitched, like you said, the night before, I was like, wow, I'm done. And even though we still had that one game, it didn't seem as emotional that night So I thought I was going to be able to get away with it. And then of course they called down, Trev, you're going to have the 8th inning. I was like, oh crap. And I remember warming up and, I'm getting emotional. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to go through with this. How am I going to do it? And I warm up. As soon as I hit the gate and open it up, I feel better because it's kind of a normal situation. And then I start thinking about it all the way in because you hear that song, the Johnny Cash, I've been everywhere. And now, so from the bullpen to the mound, I'm thinking about Watertown, New York, Akron, Ohio, Buffalo, Colorado Springs, just everywhere that I was a team member on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get through this inning. And I think I got the first 2 guys out pretty quick. I don't know if I got a strikeout in there or not. Then I gave up a hit. And I was like, oh no, somebody's going to score. And I just remember telling myself, one more good pitch. And then I want to say, and I'm not quite certain, but I think the last guy I faced was actually the pitcher. And I was able to get him out. However I did, I don't remember. But I was walking off that mound. It was just a big emotional release. And I remember telling Bert, I'm done. I'm not going back out. And Bert's like, Trav, you got to go back out. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, we don't have anybody else. And I'm like, oh my God.
Let me add a little drama here. There were 10,000 people in that ballpark, and they were all absolutely standing, going nuts. We were I always stand in the booth anyway, but I was going nuts. I can't remember. I think maybe Kirk Dressendorfer was on the air with me as a color analyst. Maybe
I believe it was.
That makes sense. But I'm going to tell you, I'm not one to cry at the drop of a hat. But this is so emotional, and I knew him so well, and it just got all over us. But go ahead and finish, because the finish of it is.
Yeah, no, the finish is really what makes it. So, anyways, we get I end up going out, but I see in the bullpen that we have somebody warming up, and I want to say it was Jose Rodriguez. I'm not quite sure, but I figure something is up, and so I go out to the mound, and I'm throwing my warm up pitches, and then after I throw my last warm up pitch, here comes Jackie, my wife, Tanner, my oldest son, and Tyler, my youngest son, and they came to get me. And I got a picture. Like, you can't see it in the picture, but I got a picture over my right shoulder that has that night with them coming off the field with me. And I mean, for me to end my career on that day with them, because especially my wife, she was with me from day one. She was my girlfriend when I got drafted, and so she went through every emotion that I had. So for her to be able to come bring me off the field and end it that way, it made it, I mean, again, just emotional, but it made it easy to end the career. And so when I look back at my career, I can say I don't have any regrets. I have no, did I leave something in the tank where I could have kept on playing? I don't have any of those thoughts. And that just made it the best way to go. And the only thing I can think of just that I got to be around is when Biggio and Bagwell both retired. And that same year, I was at those ceremonies in Houston when they did things for them, that they got their clean break and they got their heroes send off. And even though mine was only 10,000 into the minor leagues, it felt as big as it probably did for those guys.
Well, Jackie Moore had a huge, huge, huge role in this whole thing. And he really glows in the book about Travis and what kind of guy he was, what kind of pitcher he was, what kind of man he was, what kind of father he was, which adds to the mystique and the just savoir faire of the whole thing. And really, I can just I sit sometimes after I come home from doing a game at night in on the back porch we have here on Petra Path, drinking a beer and thinking about that. And I don't know how they could have done it better, but I'll tell you one thing that's always stuck with me. one of the most impressive things I saw about that night, besides the kids coming out, besides his wife coming out, besides Jackie and his emotions and all of our players, the New Orleans players came
Yes.
out of the dugout and gave him a standing ovation.
Wow.
You don't see that.
No.
You don't see that.
And you know what even made that even kind of better too is that I spent some of my best years in the minor leagues in New Orleans,
Right.
and I have a lot of great memories. It was only 2 seasons, but it was the 2 seasons prior to me making the big leagues. That's where, we talk about AAA being finishing school. And granted, I was 28, 29 when I was there in New Orleans, but that was my finishing school, and that got me ready for my opportunity in the big leagues to be able to handle it. And that's so to have them be there too was a big deal.
Well, here's a question for you about being a grinder, just to take a little bit of a throw you a little bit of a curve here.
That's why I couldn't hit, Cappy. I couldn't hit the curveball. Throw me something straight.
Well, you'll hit this just fine. So here's the thing. You had your share of disappointments, up and down, back and forth, and I don't think I can find anybody better to explain this because you and I have had this conversation. What is it inside a human being that tells them I am not, by God, going to give up my dream? What is
So I can actually think about a really distinct moment, and it was I was in New Orleans, and it was prior to us making the playoffs in 2001. We shared the championship with Tacoma, but prior to the playoffs, Jerry Hunsicker was the GM, and he came up to me and says, "Trav, right now, congratulations, great season, everything like that. I do not see you going to the big leagues with us. One, because you don't have any major league experience. And they're in the middle of a playoff run. And two, you don't throw as hard as we would like for a guy with no experience." And I remember thinking, you know what? I really don't care what you say. I know I can pitch in the big leagues. I just need my opportunity. But what I appreciated for him was just being honest. And most guys don't get. He gave me an honest answer that I couldn't argue with. But I remember it's if I can just find my opportunity, I'll be fine. And also earlier in that year, I came up with my own game plan that said I'm not worried about anything else. I'm not going to worry about trying to get to the big leagues anymore. I'm going to do what I know to be right when it comes to how I need to pitch. And I formulated my game plan. I ended up having the best season that I've ever had. And that's also the year that I perfected my split finger. So I think that really helped. But it was just when you quit worrying about what the front office thinks, what the baseball writers, the Baseball Americas and all these blogs that were starting to show up at the time with the internet when they were talking about the baseball, you can get caught up in that and you start worrying about what everybody else thinks. And I quit worrying about it. And the only opinions at that point that mattered were my wife. And at that point, we didn't have Tyler yet, was my son. And so it was like, if they still like me at the end of the day, and I know I like myself, I'm good. And I think that freed me up and allowed me to be better. And so that really was something that helped me get to the big leagues.
You reach a point, whether you're grinding in baseball or any facet of life, and I found it true in the broadcast industry, where you just have to say, here I am.
Yes, there is no doubt.
Here I am, and I believe in myself. And if I were you, I'd get on my bandwagon and go because I'm going. Is that fair?
No, it's very fair. And I also think that, we as baseball players, and I know a lot of guys probably have a hard time with this. I accepted the fact that I might not make it to the big leagues, but that also helped that I did go to Japan a couple years before, so I did have some financial leverage for myself. But I really remember thinking that if the only thing that mattered was, again, the opinions of my wife, that you can get past all of that, and that if I don't define myself as a baseball player, yes, I played baseball, but it wasn't going to be my life. I had my wife, I had my kids, and that's who I wanted to be, to please, and to please my parents, of course. But that's who it mattered most to me, was everything that went around them. And so, not being if I wasn't going to be a big leaguer, I resigned myself, and I was going to be okay with that. But then that's when everything started happening so well, and I think that's why I was also able to handle, going up to the big leagues, getting sent back down, going back. I always looked at it as it's just another opportunity to prove myself, and it made it a whole lot easier, because I know you hear about guys going up and down and they get upset about it. Like, what's to be upset about? I'm still getting to play. I'm still getting paid good money, especially at that time. And now it's even better money. But I think the days of guys going up and down for 5 and 6, 7 years are done. I think that's going to be changing. I think they might do it for while they have options, but then after that, I think it's going to be harder for those guys to do that, because 40-man spots are going to be really hard to come by and to hold on to.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on that. But at the end of the day too, when you look back on it, you got to be pleased, because so many people come through, and you've seen them, you've played with them. I've seen them, talk to them. They have regrets.
Mm-hmm.
They have regrets.
No doubt.
And my heart bleeds for them. I mean, it just does, because, okay, if I just, golly gee whiz, it just, and I've told my kids, I've told my grandsons and granddaughters, when you take on an athletic passion, lay it all out every chance you get.
Oh, no doubt.
Because if you don't, you're going to wake up one morning, you're going to play the what if game, and it's going to drive you nuts.
Oh, you're no doubt. And that's the one thing I can honestly say. Do I wish I had more times in the big leagues, just because of the financials and everything, that the ramifications that come up from that would have been great. But I would not change one day of my career, because, again, I approached it at least the way that I believe to be correct, and it benefited me. But I see too many guys, maybe I should have worked out harder. I should have done this. I'm not going to live like that. And, people regret, I shouldn't have signed with this organization. I should have, you know what? You made the choice, and it's okay. But did you make the most of it? And I believe I made the most of every situation I was given, whether it be with the Astros, the Indians, or the Rockies. What other organization? I went to Tampa Bay for spring training, and I laid it out there, and it wasn't good enough for them, and so they released me. But then here came Round Rock again, picking me up in the Astros, and I end up having two of my best years, my last 2 years, after somebody else said, you know what, we don't think you're right for us, and it works out.
Driscoll, I've got to pop in here. First and foremost, I can't bury the lead story here. Mutual friend of ours just texted while we're recording this episode. Ironically, it's David Hafner.
Nice, David.
He says you need to shave, by the way.
I don't know. I mean, I feel pretty good up here. I don't know about down here. I mean, if I'm not going to have it up here, I got to have something down here.
David's got to understand something. He hasn't arrived at that point in his life. You grow hair where you can grow hair. Get over.
That's right.
Yeah, that's so. And so the guy who asked the question,
and it could be that he just doesn't have the ability to grow a full beard, and that's why he's jealous.
That is very well could be the fact. That absolutely that is. That is the reason.
Right.
So you talked about work ethic. Now, Travis was you were a year older than me, I think. A
Yeah, I
year ahead of me.
graduated in 90.
Okay. At Anderson High School here in Austin, Texas, for those of you in other parts of Texas or the country,
World.
the world, across the globe. So at Anderson, Pony Colt, Texas Tech, throughout the minor league system to the big show.
Don't forget Blinn.
Blinn
That's
Junior
right,
College in
Blinn.
Brenham. Now that's a place where people truly grind and work the junior college
And
system.
there is no doubt, and Blinn will always have a special place in my heart because that's where I started to find myself as a pitcher, where things just kind of happened, and that's a whole nother story. But we don't have to go about that right now. But that Blinn will always be special.
It's a beautiful park too.
It was beautiful. I haven't been there recently, but it was state of the art at the time. It's probably not the most state of the art place in the world now, but what I remember is that grass was as green as could be. It was beautiful.
Just like those Bluebell cows.
Oh man.
Oh yeah.
They're happy cows.
Happy.
That's what I remember from one of the commercials. The cows in Brenham are happy.
Shame. Neither one of you have any shame at all. None.
None. Cappy, I know we probably need to wrap up, but I have to ask, Travis, so there's individuals who enter the game, they reach the level you did in the minors. What is it? Have you ever seen anyone, maybe you didn't know at the time, observing you, who didn't have the greatest work ethic, but over time they did and may have admitted it to you at some point, or say that, hey, you helped me become a better player?
I don't know. The only thing I ever tried to do, and it's really by example, and I can honestly say I wasn't the guy that was out there running poles day and night. I wasn't the guy in the weight room. The one thing that I really tried to perfect, and it showed me my limitations too, was just how I approached the game. During the game, in the bullpen, I was paying attention. If I was a starting pitcher, paying attention, doing the things that you needed to do, just so I would have. Because again, when you don't have, I didn't have the most talent, but I had enough talent that if I attacked and I executed, I could get some of the best players that ever played the game. I could get them out once, maybe not twice, but if I was able to face them, I could go at least compete. And that's what I tried to be the guy. Again, I wasn't, you look at me, I was 5'11" and a half, 6 foot, a little bit porky. So, I wasn't that fit guy that anybody talked about. But the one thing is, and I saw this, I was healthy every day, so, Cappy alluded to it earlier, that I was never afraid to take the ball. I would take the ball 7 days a week if they would have let me. And, the way the game goes now, they won't let you do that, especially in the minor leagues. They have so many rules, but I would pitch as often as I could, whenever I could, and I would never turn down the ball. Even if my arm wasn't feeling good, I was going to give it a try. And that's what I hope players that I played with saw, that I was never afraid. And that one of the things in baseball that I think so many that holds people back, they're afraid to lose. I was never afraid to lose.
Yes.
I wanted to win.
Point.
But one of the lessons I try to teach when I work with kids is don't be afraid to lose. It's okay. You don't have to like it, but if you go out there afraid to lose, you're going to lose.
There's no question.
Someone's going to beat you, and then it's going to beat you down. I took a loss as I'm going to come back. What am I? If you beat me on my fastball, the next time I'm going to try. Maybe I need to throw a better fastball, or I need to use my other weapons. I was going to learn how to try to win the next time I faced you, or the next time I faced that team, because I wasn't going to accept losing, but I was never afraid to go out there and let it all hang out. One of my good buddies from the Orioles, Pat Henkin, I'm sure this show is PG, but he used to talk about taking his sack throwing it over his shoulder and say, "Here we go, boys. I'm going to attack you." And that's one thing that I remember distinctly. And he ended up with the nickname Hog Nuts, and that's one of those things.
Well, there you go.
He wasn't afraid to throw it over there and let it go.
You were doing okay until you got to the Hog Nuts, and then
I love it. That's the truth, though. You gotta. Another guy I'll quote. I won't attribute who it came from, but you got to let them hang sometimes.
You do
when you're competing.
And I think I look at coaches. When and for whatever reason, it seems like football coaches are the ones that they seem like they're afraid to lose, and so they coach not to lose instead of going out there to win. And I want to see people go out there and to win,
turn it loose,
and just go after them.
That's it.
Wow.
That's all you can ask for.
No, you're exactly right.
I've got a seventh grader I've told you about, Travis, and he's just that way. And his overall demeanor sometimes reminds me of me, and it really pisses me off. But what am I going to do, right?
Right.
But he's got that attitude. It's here it is, boys, and let's see if you can beat me. Love that.
I think it's the only way to go.
All right, buddy. We appreciate you, and I will have you on if you're down here. That's fine. But I think I like that telephone thing. We may do that a couple of times.
That's fine as long as I'm available, and most nights I'm available. I only work.
I'll just call you up wherever you are, and then you can either do it or not, and then tell me.
There you go.
Go to hell or whatever.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thanks for bringing me into the fold.
Yeah, buddy. You're the best.
All right. Thank you so much.
Travis Driscoll, who is a grinding legend in my mind and so many others. He's a great example for all of you young, up-and-coming baseballers. Google him up. Watch YouTube videos. Grinder by example. Until the next episode, I'm Sean Clinch for Mike Capps and the Travis Driscoll. It's on to episode 8. We are out.